I never follow a brewery how they do things. It's always just
by intuition.
Just
so
thinking.
You have a lot of trust in yourself that your gut urge is like going in the right direction.
Well, so the way that I brew is a little bit. I will brew the same way, and I'll change one variable.
Like a science project.
And I do that every single time. So 9 years. So yeah, we've made at least 100 batches.
No.
And it's changed over time. We now don't change it at all.
Sure.
I don't think there's any variable that we would.
Right. It's been enough that you've experimented with. Yeah.
Yeah. The ones that we experiment the most with is our doubles and triples. That's where we
still play around a lot.
Yeah, we play around a lot. We always change the hops in those.
You think that's important to play around like that?
Yes, and if you're doing the exact same thing, then another brewery can come around and take over your beers. That's my thought.
Was there a certain moment where you're just like, because surely in the early days, there might have been a lack of confidence in what you were doing?
Yeah.
A lot of researching. But,
yes,
but then
I researched it. So, okay. So
at some point there must have been like, oh, now
I keep forgetting how long I've been here for.
Now I'm the black belt, right?
Well, I guess it's a different level of learning. So when I first started, I was reading every book under the sun.
Right.
Reading about every recipe, following every brewery, every brewer, contacting brewers.
Yeah.
And that was how I taught myself. Whereas these days, it's just me playing around with my brewer. But
There's so many homebrew conversations that are going on that AI can...
But yeah, our conversations and how we learn, or how I learn, is very different these days. I'm not stuck in a book. Right. I'm not trying to research. It's almost like, yeah, I trust how I brew. And if the flavor doesn't come out exactly how I want it, I just look back and ask my brewer, hey, do you think we did anything different? Or how can we improve this? Right. But I think mentally as well, as a brewer, if you do the exact same thing,
you get bored.
You're not craft anymore.
Right.
You're just a brewery.
Right.
And if you're doing the exact same thing, then another brewery can come around and take over your beers. That's my thought. Oh, he used crush. He said it was about 50% of the hop bill. And that's things that I'll remember, and I'll go back and go, I really remember that aroma that I got from this beer. The bitterness wasn't too high. He even told me how many kilograms he used. Use what you did. But I was just saying, well, how can I, how can I work off that to make that percentage of alcohol IPA taste like that? And in my head, I want it to taste better, but I wouldn't be angry if it's not as good. It's just, I want it, but I do want it to be different every time I brew. Yes.
Than other breweries?
We've always, when we did hazies, we were the first to, you've probably got it. Do you have a hop drop at all?
Oh, no, we don't have a hop drop.
So we designed the first hop drop. Yeah. And people in China and a few people said, oh, you should get that, a patent for that because you designed it. And then we saw a few people saw that we used it. So, because they said it would be very dangerous. And when we first, so hop drop is just this cylinder that you put onto the fermenter, and it's enclosed and you can gas it and then drop the hops without adding oxygen or opening the tank and even leaving the same pressure in the tank so it doesn't have to be opened.
Sure.
And when we first designed that, we were so nervous to use it. Yeah. Because we'd never seen it. I just came up with it.
By theory, it should work, but there was no hard evidence.
By theory, I was like, this is a very basic thing. We do a lot of things like just using hands, like handmade beer, basically.
Manual process.
Very manual. So we don't have anything automatic. We don't have anything fancy at all. We are just in this old derelict building.
Do you have a paddle? Do you paddle the grains?
No, we just kidding. But I always, actually I move, I like to do fireman's carries with the kegs, so I refuse to use a trolley. I always lift the kegs myself.
It's good for your traps.
So I'm just trying to build my back. But yeah, so we think that is not where you need to spend your money on. Sure. So we spend the money on the ingredients. Right. So that's where we think the difference.
Like when you try to make something good or do it the right way, like there's a lot of instances where you don't take shortcuts, things that you wouldn't want to compromise on.
Actually, you were speaking about challenges before. That's probably the biggest challenge now that I think about it a little bit more.
Would you say quality assurance, or would you say creating the
I would say keeping quality with prices and inventory and getting them into Korea has been a huge struggle, but we've always managed to stick to that principle. So we never cut, like for example, malts. we only like to get the best quality malts. So we'll only get Australian malts.
Right.
When I say best quality, I like Australian malts over German malts.
Sure.
But we wouldn't swap out to, there's Danish malts here that are a lot cheaper.
Yeah. Well, for example,
We've never bought them.
You think a lot of the breweries in Korea are kind of making compromises, right?
I guess they don't have the exact same principle as us. They don't have the same setup.
Yeah.
But that's a challenge we've faced because we
Prices
always
keep going
want
up.
the end customer being either the bar owner or the customers at the bars being the happiest.
Sure.
And so we've never been able to break that out of our brewing principles. We've always had to buy the best hops, best
Starting with the
malt,
best quality
best
hops.
fruit.
and
Yeah.
malts. Do you feel like the market has rewarded that effort per se? Do you see other breweries that are cutting corners and still getting massive and having a lot of success?
Sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
So for example, with one of where we're selling with Moving Brewery at the moment,
Sure.
we get told, our beers are the best
Okay.
in the whole lineup. So,
Yeah.
and we hear that from their sales staff telling that to customers, and customers trying it and saying the same thing.
Right. That's good.
So yeah, that's a reward, but money-wise, it doesn't always pay off. But you have to make that decision. Buying all these hazy yeasts, and I just wanted to get it, and then Lallemand
Yeah.
did, I guess, a collaboration
With them.
to use their yeast because they were testing it. And I watched the YouTube, and when I was able to get it,
We were like a fan of it before. It was even
and this was
readily
before Josh was at Lallemand actually.
Sure. Yeah.
And so our Hops and Chill and Hops and Thrill, which is our two ones that we play around with, our hazy ones, they started on Verdant yeast, and that was 3-4 years ago.
Yeah.
And that was maybe 4 or 5 actually.
Right.
That really put us on the map. People were so excited, and that started with Verdant. So they started with Lallemand.
Right.
And I forever loved that yeast. And then we also tried their Pomona.
I'm a big fan of it. Yeah.
Different. I like it, but the only thing is we've always used Verdant for those beers, and when we changed to Pomona, it's that same thing where some customers are like, oh, this tastes different. This is different.
Right. Yeah.
It's easy in your head to know what the difference is and how to drink that, knowing that you use a different yeast. But if you're just a customer, you don't know that. You just expect the exact same thing.
Exactly.
So I find Pomona's more dry, a little bit thinner, but the hops are bouncier.
What do you think about the future for the brewing industry? This one's kind of more for like the brewers,
Yeah.
There's a lot of uncertainty.
Yeah. So for example, we were looking at growing, so we actually put money down to take a new property in Pyeongtaek.
Are you guys still looking at a property right now?
No, we put money down, and we because we agreed to it, we lost that deposit. That's fine.
Yeah.
We decided to pull out of that and pull out of the expansion.
Right.
So yeah, we wasted money there because we see the industry
Shifting
reverting
back.
back to its old self that we were when we first started. So we're a small brew pub. I guess the same as Wildcat. We don't have the pub there anymore.
Right,
We
yeah.
just do distribution.
That was an unusual beer for us because Josh from Lallemand helped design that recipe, and we used a huge mash hop charge, which I normally
Yeah, you
not
mentioned
really-
that too.
We've done that technique before. Didn't think like the flavor was really there for us, so kind of stopped doing it. And then Josh was really adamant. This is like a new yeast biotransformation. You got to try it. He guided the recipe. I told him I was gonna use maybe 40% more for the dry hops, and he gave me a lot of pushback. He said, "Don't do it."
Oh wow,
From Josh's side, he said, "Please don't do that. See how this one turns out, and then the next one you try, do whatever you want."
well, that's awesome because I think that's also exciting that you tried something that's
Right.
you wouldn't want to do. Like your whole self is saying no, don't do this.
Yeah.
You're like, surely just put it in the fermenter.
Choke more hops in the fermenter. It's not that aggressive.
Yeah, but those are sort of things where you kick yourself and you
Right.
think, oh, I wish I did that. And those last 10 IPAs that I made, they would have been slightly better or
Sure.
something like that. But it's also interesting. So that's a new beer for you. So what I would find interesting with that is tasting it for the next 3-4 months and seeing
See
if
how
the
it
flavor,
changes.
see if
How
it
does it
changes.
age? Right.
I was actually saying to you, was it last night or the night before?
Right.
About, you were saying one of your, it was,
Hazy IPAs
Yes.
kind of old in the tank.
yeah, and I said I quite like IPAs when they're at that age.
Right.
And that's usually when I drink my IPAs, because if it's selling out too fast, I always think if I have one, a customer's not going to get that. And I do think that.
Yeah, sure.
So I don't drink.
Right. You just drink the stale stuff.
So sometimes I find myself just drinking like, oh, this batch didn't sell as well or something, so
we got to get rid of it first.
Yeah. But I find that the individual hops don't shine in an older IPA, but it gets this soft, almost subtle flavor, and I appreciate that. Yeah. And your one that you had, it's had all those qualities of a good IPA.
Sure.
Just slightly aged, and I never think that's wrong.
Yeah, just different in its own way. Well, the way Korean craft beer is going right now, so say a lot of brewers, this might be for like the brewers, for example, not like brewery owners, but there's a lot of brewers who work for someone, but they feel siloed off, right? They don't have this open conversation with other people. They're trying to find their own way, but limited options, maybe, especially like you're trying to read Korean, it's a little bit harder to research. So these guys feel kind of siloed in a way. Mm-hmm. What do you think their focus should be on to take their beer to the next level?
You mean the brewers within the breweries?
Yeah, maybe guys who are a little bit newer, or guys who are a little bit siloed off and don't have much open conversation with other people.
I'd say that the industry is very closed these days. I think people in general quite closed off, because we are being fed so much information easily through our phones. The only thing I can suggest is messaging the brewery and trying to talk to the head brewers like yourself.
Keeping the conversation open.
Because I think people are willing to conversate, especially the older guys like us. Mm-hmm. We want to chat. A lot of us just don't know how to talk because no one talks to us. So I think COVID definitely didn't help how people socialize. There's less events that we go to. You see that a lot less events.
A lot less money going around in the events.
Yeah, there's less money flowing. So of course there's going to be less for events. Yeah. It is hard I'd say this is probably the hardest era ever to start out.
Sure.
Because you've also got bosses that are looking at AI and going, this can do our design, this can do our tax, this can do our sales sheets, and this has just started. So I think it is a scary time to be new. Mm-hmm. But I feel for those guys, and they are new to the industry, just talk to the old guys. Because I think if you are more, like if you were starting now, or if I was starting now, and I'd tell my younger self, I'd just say, go to every brew pub you can, go to every brewery you can, and just show up. Obviously message, but show up, and everyone will talk to you. And you'll have a good image straight away. I think the more sociable you are now, because of the timing of every workforce being less sociable, that's just the natural way that the world's gone, I think you would get very far ahead.
Sure.
So don't be cocky.
Yeah.
Like some of the brewers that we've had in the past.
Stuck in their ways,
yeah. Yeah. But be open. Be confident, but be open. So a good example would be Ryan. I think Ryan, even Josh. Josh and Ryan, I'd probably say, sort of two brewers that I would look at and go, I want to be like them. Right. They're very knowledgeable. They're very confident, but they're also always willing to learn and talk. And I think that's probably what you'd want to strive to be. Yeah. Korean brewers, I would say.
What do you think is the biggest mistake that a lot of those breweries are making?
With their beer or business?
Well, let's talk about brewers, yeah. So let's talk about the beer first, not the business. There must be when you taste the beer,
shortcuts.
Yeah.
I think it's always down to shortcuts.
It starts with the quality of the ingredients.
Yeah. I think so. You make
shortcutting in the process.
What you don't realize is you might have a customer that's happy that they've got a cheaper beer, but you've got another customer that's not satisfied. And when I say customer, I'm putting it in a very general sense that it could be the bar, could be the restaurant, or it could be the actual individual customers. But you're creating your own issue by having difference of opinions over your beer.
Right.
So the more that you try not to make shortcuts, people will eventually, in my opinion of 9 years of doing bad business, being bad at business. I'm not good at business. I'm good at brewing.
Right.
Business, that's not my forte.
Yeah.
So for me, over those 9 years, the one thing that has always, I thought, has kept us good is just knowing that customers are as happy as they can be. And if they are, they're willing to pay the price. That's one thing I've always learned.
That's like an ethos that you carry.
Yeah, is they will pay the price if they go, wow, this is better than that beer. And I think, yeah, you create your own problem when you take shortcuts because you're...
Right.
So you're playing with fire. You're like, oh, I could change to this malt because it's half the price. And yet, you know, my biggest seller is an IPA.
Right.
When you change that malt, that IPA is going to have less body. That less body is going to have less, say, biotransformation. So that body gives almost a boost for the hops to have a place to stay and keep that flavor.
What starts as a small problem rolls down the hill.
So it ends up being a bigger problem.
Yeah.
And then you have to face those customers. So this is what I mean by it becomes a bigger problem. So if you're very good at talking to customers, you can get away with shortcuts because you can say, oh, no, that's what you should get. That's the flavor, that's what your customers will like. So that's how people overcome shortcuts. Now, I'm not good at that. I'm not a good businessman. I'm good at brewing. So if something's not as good and a customer rings me and goes, oh, this doesn't, so I don't know how to, I'm not good at responding to that. Like I go inwards and then I get upset. Yeah, maybe that's why I can't take shortcuts because I'm not good at facing that dilemma, that I guess business tactical decision of how you talk to customers when they're not as impressed.
Do you think that's an ego thing at all? Or?
I guess it would be.
Yeah. At this point, the beer is kind of married to your identity in a way. Right?
I guess it's an ego. I'm not worried about equipment or looking good or dressing in a suit or approaching a situation in a better look. I'm worried about what they get and what I produced. So maybe it's an ego thing in that, Sure.
What would be the perfect beer for you? When would you be like, oh?
The perfect beer depends on the occasion.
Yeah.
I think that's why I really like craft because the perfect beer can be a basic lager, but you need to be by the beach.
Okay. So you think it's place dependent as well as like event?
But I think that's where craft is different.
Yeah.
Where if you go to a bar with friends and you're just having a Stella, it doesn't make that bar wow. So yeah, the occasion might be nice, you're talking with your friends, but that's where I like craft is, it doesn't matter about the space. If the beer's good, it gives a wow factor. So we have a Churbo. My favorite is like a New Zealand style West Coast IPA. I just absolutely love Nelson Sauvin and Motueka hops. Two hops I can never not get excited for to open the bag.
Right.
So my perfect beer would have to include those hops and probably be an IPA.
Right. Taking into balance your preferences and what tastes good to you.
Yeah.
When you think about the future of craft beer in Korea, what are you afraid of and what are you excited about?
What I'm afraid of, there's an economist that I watch called Scott Galloway. What he said is what I'm afraid of. He said, young people just need to get out there and start drinking and having fun. With how the economy and how work and AI and everything is going, people are refusing fun to become too serious because they're so worried about everything. So what I'm scared about is that the younger generations stop having fun and therefore stop enjoying craft beer, stop enjoying going out and socializing. That's what I'm afraid of. I'm not afraid of the industry itself. I'm afraid of people, well, it's there and not enjoying it, so therefore it might not be there later on. That's my biggest worry, is people stop having fun and therefore the industry itself suffers. And when I say the industry, I don't just mean craft beer, I mean bars, restaurants. Yeah, I think it's all connected. So that's what I'm worried about. What I'm excited about is, well, coming down to Busan, for example, and I had your hazy IPA, and then I went up to Beer Shop and I had Gorilla's new they're newing, that sort of stuff. Just knowing that something better is in Korea. And you brought some American beers in.
Oh, that's right. We had a taste, and like share taste.
Yeah, sometimes it's weird. It's like a weird setting where I used to get really excited getting imported beer into Korea.
Right, me too.
But I feel like our beer's gotten so much good that you're excited in your head like a child, like, oh, this is a new present. And then you go, oh, this isn't as good as I thought. This isn't as good as I thought. And it's not because it's not good. It's just because Korean craft beer got so good.
Yeah, the ceiling keeps going.
I hope keeps going. I think the OEM and stuff like that
Gives kind of a pushback to that.
yeah, because it's
craft.
just about marketing. They're tricking customers with just fancy labels. I hope that sort of leaves the industry a bit.